hotel, huh?
Yeah, actually it is.
I like the bar and the restaurant. We got it made this week.
Although give it 5 days, we might go, okay, where are we going out to dinner?
Well, we eat the same thing every night anyway.
You too. Quesadilla, quesadilla, quesadilla.
We're in West Palm Beach, Florida, to investigate the 2003 murder of Gwen Greenblatt. Gwen was from Pennsylvania, and everybody from back home talk about how sweet she always was. She was a great dancer. She's the kind of girl that didn't have any enemies. Mm-hmm. Gwen moved with her husband, Matt, from the steel town of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, to glamorous West Palm Beach, Florida, looking to improve their way of life. Gwen was just in love with Matt and trying to make it work and moved to Florida to try and have a happy life.
And then look what happens.
She got off of work that day and was driving home talking on the phone to her friend. When she walks up the stairs and she comes into her apartment,
Friend hears her scream in the phone, and then everything goes silent. When police responded, they found Gwen slumped in a laundry basket, shot twice in the head. All the evidence has been tested for DNA, and they do come back to persons of interest to us, so that's a good thing versus what we normally get. The DNA collected outside the crime scene could play a critical role in this case. The question is, can we find enough evidence to make sense of it and figure out once and for all who killed Gwen?
People think that just because you get DNA evidence, that's your case. Well, we got to find some circumstances that tie that DNA back to the scene or the victim or the world at that time. So that's going to be hard for us to do.
Well, we'll see what this week brings.
It has been 16 years and still no answer.
Police consider her killing a cold case.
Years later, the case is still unsolved.
There are so many cold cases out there just waiting to be solved.
The crime scene ultimately tells the story of the murder.
We want to bring justice to these victims. Hi, I'm Kelly.
Captain Brian Capper.
Nice to meet you.
Aaron Sanders.
Hi, Aaron. Nice to meet you.
Glad to have you guys here.
Yes.
How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Yep.
So, okay, we all know Palm Beach.
Well, Palm Beach is what we call across the bridge.
Okay.
That's your Kennedy's and so forth.
famous part.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
famous
West
part,
Palm
right.
Beach is the main city for Palm Beach County.
Yeah.
West Palm Beach is a medium-sized city. It was originally founded to service the residents and the tourists of Palm Beach, where all the fancy hotels and beaches are. I've lived here now for over 40 years, and I've been working the Gwen Greenblatt murder since 2003.
You got a room for us to work in?
Yes,
Sure
ma'am.
do.
Let's go.
Let's go to work.
Look what we got.
Nice to meet you.
Steve Spingola, hi, nice to meet you.
Steve Spingola is back this week because we have one smooth-talking suspect, maybe even two. And Steve is very good at pinning people down and getting to the heart of the matter. Why don't you start out by telling us about Gwen?
Gwen is from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania,
She was 35, right?
35 years old. Gwen was a hard-working girl. She was a massage therapist at probably the most famous hotel in Palm Beach County, Florida, the Breakers Hotel.
Hey, famous in the country. I've heard
Yeah,
of it.
very famous. She falls in love with a guy by the name of Matt Greenblatt. He comes from a family that owned a textile mill. Gwen and Matt marry, and they come down to Florida in 2000. And there's some problems in the marriage.
Gwen and Matt were separated before their first anniversary due to Matt's infidelities. But Gwen still hoped that their marriage could be saved, and though they kept separate residences, they continued to see each other for 3 years prior to Gwen's murder. And why don't y'all tell us about the day that brought y'all into the world of Gwen?
February 5th, 2003, Gwen has come home to her apartment complex. She's on the phone to her friend Christina. When Gwen opens the door, Christina hears a scream.
Yeah, I was just on the phone with my girlfriend, and she just got home to her house, and she started screaming on the phone and dropped the phone.
When the police officers arrive, they find Gwen in a closet, and she's got 2 gunshot wounds, one to the face and one to the top of her head. She's critically wounded. They immediately transport her to the hospital, where she succumbs from her injuries. She never says anything. There's no forced entry, there's no sexual trauma, and nothing's been stolen. As they're wheeling her out, the police officer looks at the fire pull box, and what's on top is a cigarette, and it's still burning.
Detectives recovered 2 cigarette butts just outside Gwen's apartment. One apparently smoldering on top of a fire alarm pull box, and the other snuffed out nearby. Both were tested for DNA.
The cigarette butt laying on the ground is Matt Greenblatt's.
Okay. So this is Matt Greenblatt.
He's the husband separated from Gwen.
For 3 years.
He has no alibi.
Matt told the police that he was home alone on his phone and on his computer the afternoon that Gwen was murdered. However, during an hour and 20-minute window right around the time of the murder, computer analysis showed that he was logged off and his cell phone showed no activity. But is that just a coincidence or is it evidence? And what's he doing for a living now?
He's a bass fisherman. He's on the pro tour.
He's got money.
Yeah.
He's got women.
Yeah.
To say that he had a roving eye would be an understatement. Yeah. He had several girlfriends who were strippers, but he was still seeing Gwen.
He's very possessive.
Very possessive.
Controlling.
It's pretty clear that Matt and Gwen had a strained relationship, but Matt seemingly had everything that he wanted. He came from a wealthy family, he had a beautiful wife who was madly in love with him, and he had freedom to date other women.
This guy does all right.
It makes you wonder, why in the world would he want to kill Gwen? What is the tick-tock that finally makes Matt do this if he's our killer? Why now? Matt and Gwen still saw each other pretty often, so it's possible that his snuffed-out cigarette right outside her door is perfectly innocent. But Matt's DNA was only on one of the 2 cigarettes investigators recovered.
Circa 2009, we're advised by the Palm Beach County Crime Lab, the murder is now 6 years old, that we have a CODIS hit. And it appears that the CODIS hit belongs to a fellow in the federal prison by the name of Richard Eugene Engel.
On a what kind of case?
Nothing violent, it's a federal fraud case.
Is he still in custody?
No, sir, he's been
not.
released.
And he wasn't in custody when our murder happened. You've checked, right?
Absolutely.
All right, what do you want to put up here first under Richard Engel?
The cigarette
3
butt.
letters, DNA,
Well, that's, I think, the second point. The cigarette is smoldering.
smoldering.
And how many feet would you say that is away from Gwen's front door?
8.
Do you have any recollection of being there? No. If the girl was killed,
Yeah.
like you're saying, and
Yeah.
you found the cigarette at the scene,
Yeah.
I don't know how my cigarette, if that is mine, would get there to the scene at that time.
That's
if I
the
wasn't
million-dollar
there.
question, sir. That's the million-dollar question. He said that at the time of the murder, he was not a smoker. He said, you're making a mistake. That's not my DNA. You're wrong.
That's such a stupid answer. Richard Engel told the police he was a pizza delivery man for a place called Hungry Howie's, and Gwen's apartment was in his delivery area. But he initially denied ever visiting her apartment complex. Unfortunately, his employer's records from back then are long gone, and the police have been unable to find any useful connection between Richard Engel and Gwen or Matt.
It's literally impossible for him not to be at that scene at the time of Gwen's murder.
As a prosecutor, this is the kind of case that scares the heck out of you because everybody knows DNA can help you convict people, but you don't want to be that prosecutor who sends someone innocent to prison based on DNA. We've got beautiful DNA from our 2 suspects, but we have to figure out the circumstances about how it got there to understand whether Gwen's killer was one of them, both of them working together, or neither one of them. And we can't get this wrong.
So we're gonna go meet Gwen's 2 brothers.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Gwen's mom has passed away, so she'll never know this was opened up again.
Hi, I'm Chad.
Yolanda, nice to meet you.
Thank you for coming.
Hi, Chad. I just wish that their mom, Barbara, could have lived long enough to see this day.
Our sister was a great kid. She was a dancer.
What kind of dancer?
She did tap, she did jazz, you name
kind of
it.
everything.
Yeah.
Lyrical.
Yeah, lyrical,
Yeah.
yeah, she did everything. Head cheerleader. Our sister encompassed all the good things in life.
Everybody says when she walks into a room, she lit it up with her smile.
But I most remember my sister as a little kid. That's when I most think about it, is Gwen looks identical to my daughter. My daughter's super cute. They just look almost identical.
To your daughter.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, every holiday, I just got married, I'm having a baby. It's like, you're always thinking, my sister's not here for this.
Our sister's missed in those times. There's 2 brothers left. Our parents are gone, and we are 2 boys who could use the love of a sister that, my brother can't provide that for me, and I can't provide that for my brother. And my brother certainly deserves it, and frankly, so do I.
Did you ever have any conversations with Gwen about Matt being abusive or anything else?
Never, only infidelity. And then it was always, I'm gonna give it another 6 months and, I'm gonna try to work it out. Because she wanted the relationship
Correct.
to succeed, and if it didn't, she didn't want to seem like a failure. She didn't want to come back to Bethlehem with her tail
she knew
between
you
her
guys
legs.
didn't like him, so she didn't
Right.
want to hear the negativity from it all either.
Right. I was close with my sister, so I wanted to support their relationship, but, he was a playboy, and we all questioned why they were together. But, who am I to tell my sister who she can and can't marry?
How much did all this influence your deciding to go to law school?
It certainly put a fire for me to want to become a prosecutor and help other victims.
Y'all keep thinking good thoughts, okay?
We are.
Absolutely.
Yes, they.
It was wonderful to meet you.
Honestly,
Hang in
thanks
there,
a lot. We
okay? Just hang in there a little bit longer.
Definitely. Good luck.
All right, guys. Thank y'all.
Nice meeting you guys.
Bye-bye.
We don't have the exact apartment of the murder, but we have another apartment complex that is similar. After Gwen and Matt separated, she moved into a small apartment all by herself, an apartment that turned into a crime scene. If we're gonna figure out who murdered Gwen that day, we need to try to retrace her steps and her killers.
We're in West Palm Beach, Florida to investigate the 2003 murder of Gwen Greenblatt. 2 cigarettes containing the DNA of our suspects, Matt Greenblatt and Richard Engel, were found outside of Gwen's apartment, suggesting that one or both of them were smoking while they were possibly keeping a lookout for Gwen to arrive that day.
So as we know, in the afternoon hours of February the 5th, 2003, Gwen comes home from work between 3:15 and 3:30.
Gwen was talking on her cell phone as she arrived home, so we know that she wasn't attacked until she entered. Since there was no signs of forced entry and Matt had a key, if he was involved, he could have let himself into her apartment and ambushed her once she entered. If Richard was involved, he more than likely waited for her to enter and forced himself in before she closed the door. Okay, when we walk in our front door, just like she's walking in her front door, the living room's approximately the same. Gwen's apartment was around 500 square feet. And while she was ultimately shot near her bathroom closet, the evidence shows that her attack began right inside her front door.
Okay, Aaron, do the path that Gwen followed.
Okay. Come through the door. She's on the phone with Christine. She has time enough to put the leash on the dog. And at that point, she's attacked. You see the disturbance? There was orange glass and that was knocked over. Wooden pieces right on the floor here. Her phone is on the floor right as you come into the door. As she keeps coming around this way, we know there's another sign of struggle. Right around in here, we have her sweater, we have her keys, and we have her shoe.
She most definitely ran out of her sweater because it's laying in the middle of the floor and the sleeve's inside out.
Come over here, come here. You be the killer.
Okay.
All right, so I'm Gwen. It comes off.
Right.
And I'm trying to get away from you.
Right.
And where am I going to go? I'm going to go in here,
Right.
and I'm trying to get away from you, and you got a gun pointed at me,
Exactly.
okay? You shoot me once. I fall back, and then I'm down there, and then you do the other one, right?
When she's actually found by police, she is slumped over into this basket. Shot here. Shot here.
That's an uncommon place to get shot, unless you're going to assassinate somebody.
That's to make sure you're going to die.
That's the coup de grace.
End of story.
Exactly.
There's no doubt Gwen's killer wanted her dead. And the second gunshot wound to the top of her head tells us this wasn't just a murder. It was an execution.
Turn left after a quarter of a mile.
This case is unique and different for us in the sense that it does have very good evidence. We just need to fit in the rest of the pieces. It's time to start interviewing witnesses.
Hi, Christina.
Christina Vignon was on the phone with Gwen right before she was attacked.
Stevie works cold cases.
She may have heard something that could help.
We know, of course, that you were talking to Gwen on her way home that day.
She'd just gotten off from work and I knew she was on her way home. I was calling her on her cell phone. When she finally got home, she let out this scream. And as soon as she screamed and I'm listening, I heard her dog barking. And the dog didn't really like anybody. The dog liked Gwen.
Okay.
And I know the dog liked her husband because they lived together. It was only the people she was close with. Anybody that didn't live with her or was close to her,
The dog would make a fuss. What
Yes.
kind of person was Matt, according to what you knew?
Well, it seemed like he was super controlling and just very ugly to her. And some of the times when she was at my house, I would hear the conversation and I could hear him screaming on the phone to her.
What were they yelling about?
And it was about anything and everything. Her, especially her being out. Nobody else was allowed to date her or see her or look at her. So she had to be like a prisoner to him.
Did you have discussions about his infidelity?
Yes, we wanted her to be divorced from him because he just sounded like a miserable person. I don't even think she would tell me everything. I think she only told me things that she thought I could handle.
I feel so bad that I didn't get to hear her tell me what was going on. I feel so guilty for so many years because I didn't hear her. I didn't hear what was going on, and I wish I could have just shut up and listened to her.
You did. Let me tell you something. If we solve this, it's because of you calling. So tonight, when you hit your knees, okay?
I hope so.
It's all right. Yeah, we'll figure this out, all right?
I hope so. Thank you so much. We do not have motive at all for Richard Engel or any connection between the two. Matt might have motive, but was he the one in the apartment that day that shot Gwen? We have two suspects in the 2003 murder of Gwen Greenblatt, both of whom had DNA evidence that turned up near the crime scene. Gwen's estranged husband, Matt, and a man named Richard Engel.
At the time of the murder, Richard Engel was present there. You can't take it away.
But Engel could be completely innocent and righteously there.
Is there a connection between these two, or is there not?
Yeah. What we need to find is someone who can put Richard Engel in Matt or Gwen's world at that time. So we can figure out whether Richard Engel had a motive to want her dead or if Matt talked him into doing it.
Hey, you said you knew Matt and Gwen, correct?
Yeah.
Does the name Richard Engel mean anything to you?
No.
Not at all?
No, not at all.
Do you know a fellow by the name of Matt Greenblatt?
Yes, I do.
I want to see if you recognize this name. Richard Engel?
No, sir.
Now, you knew both Matt and Gwen.
I guess I kind of introduced them. Matt pretty much dated all of my friends.
You went through all of
And
them?
it was a joke because we had this picture at Gwen's apartment, and I looked at the picture, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you slept with every one of my friends on this photo.
Does the name Richard Engel mean anything to you?
No.
Okay.
Okay, new number. We're hitting dead ends with Richard right now. And since he wasn't spoken to until his DNA hit years after the murder, it's possible that he's completely forgotten that he ever even visited Gwen's apartment complex, and that cigarette is completely innocent.
Hi, Shelley. Billy Frazier.
So for now, we're going to shift our focus onto Matt.
You and Gwen grew up together in Allentown?
Yes. Gwendell and I were best friends growing up, best friends through high school, through college, and then when she started to hang out with Matt, the three of us never hung out. But I just remember that crying and crying and crying phone calls of how he wasn't treating her nicely, and her mom and I were scheming something fierce to get her back home.
Did Gwen ever tell you that Matt told her that he would hurt her in any way?
Yes. One day, I called her, I spoke with her. What are you doing? And she said, he keeps telling me how much he loves me. He said if I ever tried to leave him, he would kill me. So she didn't say it in a fearful way. She said it almost like a brainwashed person would say, oh my goodness, listen to what he said to me. This is how much he loves me.
It's obvious that Gwen was in an emotionally abusive relationship and Matt was in control of it. But nothing we've heard suggests that Gwen was threatening to leave him. And if Gwen wasn't keeping him from sleeping with other women, he was having his cake and eating it too. So why would he feel the need to kill her?
Miss Schultz, do you mind if we talk in the car?
Carol Scholes worked with Gwen at the Breakers Hotel Spa.
We'd get together in our rooms and talk, and she was always afraid of her husband.
How was she afraid? In what way?
Physically. That
Physically?
He was gonna hurt her.
Do you know if she ever told you that he actually did any of that?
No. The only thing was that night at Flanagan's. We were there having a drink and something to eat. She was upset because her husband is forcing her to sign these papers to relinquish all rights to this house they had so he could sell it. She had just found out about it, like that day, and she didn't want to do that.
Matt wanted to sell the home that he and Gwen lived in before they separated. But it sounds like Gwen was holding out hope that she could save their relationship, and to her that meant saving the house as well.
She said, you don't know what he'll put me through if I don't sign these papers. And she was afraid. I mean, the girl was, I never saw such fear in any woman. Frances
Goddard was a manager at the title company through which Matt negotiated to sell his house. she might know how serious their disagreement was over selling that house.
Did you have to get these two people to give you signatures?
Yes. If she don't sign, the deal ain't going through. When that was mentioned to Mr. Greenblatt, well, he went off. Really? She has to sign?
Yeah.
Just like
I'm
that?
entitled.
Just like that?
The property's in my name.
Yeah.
Just like that?
Well, he wasn't happy. We were the bad guys. She wasn't going to let go, so we knew we had a problem.
Why is he in such a hurry to sell
the
that house? But he wasn't in debt that we can find. Gwen's refusal to sign that deed is the very first we've heard of her ever keeping him from something that he wanted. It makes you wonder if after 3 years, his control over her was weakening and how he was going to handle that.
She doesn't want to sign. She doesn't want to let go of this home.
The whole signature thing never went away up until the day Gwen died. We're investigating the cold case homicide of Gwen Greenblatt, who was shot to death in her apartment back in 2003. We know that Gwen's marriage to her husband, Matt, was strained, and they disagreed over his efforts to try and finalize the sale of their home. But we want to talk to Matt's exes to try and find out more about how he treats women and what he might have told them about Gwen's murder.
I was a bartender at a strip club. That's how I met him. I was dating him when it happened.
Prior to?
Well, it wasn't after.
Right, obviously. Obviously.
Right.
Was Matt possessive or jealous?
Honestly, one time I did go out with people from work. The next day we were talking about it, and he said, "What time did you get home?" And I was like, "I don't know." And he was like, "You got home about 3." And I was like, "How would you know that?" And he was like, "Because he felt the hood of someone's car." And I was like, "Why would you come check on me at 3 in the morning?"
He had like a temper. One time he almost hit me. It was ugly.
When you first started dating Matt, did he tell you what his marital status was?
Yeah, he said that he was separated and going to be divorced. I remember something was holding it up. She was supposed to get some sort of amount of money, and he used to get really heated when he would talk about it.
He would get heated when he would talk about the fact that he had to pay her some money?
Yeah, the number is like $75,000. It would stay in my head, and I remember thinking, that doesn't sound like very much for someone who comes from money.
Matt made Gwen sign a prenup before they were married to protect his assets. Now it sounds like that prenup was coming back to haunt him, since the prenup meant that she was entitled to any money she entered the relationship with.
All right, thank you very much.
So not only was Gwen standing in the way of Matt finalizing the sale of his house, it was going to cost him $70,000 for that divorce. And for a guy who liked control so much, it's starting to sound like Matt was kind of losing it.
Very interesting that she volunteered the fact that Mr. Greenblatt would get a little upset about that, paying that $70,000.
And like she said, with all the money he had, what's that to him?
He just didn't want to pay it.
It's all about him.
We've reviewed the entire case file, bank statements, property records, and asked every single witness we've come into contact with about Richard Engel. But we can't find one single relevant thing connecting him to Gwen or Matt. And while we know his DNA was on a cigarette outside of Gwen's apartment, and he initially denied being there, there is nothing else tying him to this crime.
191 right here.
Turn in here.
Our last play is to talk to Richard Engel and try and figure out whether or not he's involved in this case.
Okay, fellas, good luck. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Engel?
Can I help you?
How you doing? Do you remember me?
No.
Detective Sam.
No, I don't remember.
I spoke to you about 2 years ago. Still working that case I was telling you about.
Okay.
And I wanted to ask you some more questions.
Not right now.
You know, if this would be your family member, we'd be doing the same thing.
I understand. I did once already for 2 hours.
I know.
The only reason we are here to even speak to you is because of the evidence that was there. If I could figure out one way to audibly explain why that cigarette came back to you.
I feel like I just don't know anything that I can help you with, and if I did, I would, just like that day.
Okay.
All right.
All right, thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
Take care, sir.
Thanks.
He didn't remember Aaron. Interviewing him in federal prison. How's he going to remember putting a cigarette down years earlier?
I would be like, who knows how my cigarette got there?
What's your impression of him since you first met him?
He's got no real serious crimes. What was he in jail for? Like some type of a fraud or something?
Yeah, selling gold bullion or something like that.
You know, it may go deeper for him to keep quiet over whatever it was.
We have some unanswered questions about Richard Engel, but we cannot put him in Gwen's world. And you cannot prosecute a murder case based simply on a discarded cigarette. If Engel is involved, you got to have more. A lot of times, if there's anybody that a criminal will confess to, it's going to be somebody that they ran with in their past.
No worries.
So we want to talk to Richard Engel's old co-defendant in his federal mail fraud case and see if Richard Engel ever told him anything.
Okay, I'm here to talk to you about Richard Engel. You know Richard Engel? Remember Richard Engel?
Yeah. We were friends since junior high.
And then Richard Engel is his dad?
Richard Engel is his dad, and his mother's name was Sharon. Sharon.
Sharon Houck, I think.
That's who he bought the house from.
I don't know if you've ever seen this female or if you've ever heard this name, Gwen Greenblatt. Nothing, huh?
Houck is Matt bought the house from. The house, it's the questionable house with the deed and everything.
Right, that he sold to Pipcock.
Matt bought it from Houck.
From Houck?
H-A-U-C-K.
Okay.
Sharon Houck is Engel's mother.
Oh, boy.
If Matt bought his home from a relative of Richard Engel, that might be the connection we've been looking for.
How's that a coincidence?
It's
probably not.
It goes from a coincidence to a circumstance.
Yes, it does. You might have just found the connection.
Richard Engel's mother's name is Sharon Houck. Look who Matthew Greenblatt bought the house from. Richard A. Houck and Annette E. Houck.
All right, we got to follow it up. Good memory.
Our suspect, Matt Greenblatt, bought his house from a lady named Annette Houck. If she's related to our other suspect, Richard Engel, through his mother, Sharon Houck, that might be the connection we've been looking for. And evidence that Richard Engel really was involved in Gwen's murder.
Mrs. Houck, I'm a police officer with the state attorney's office in West Palm Beach, Florida. We're conducting a criminal investigation pertaining to a murder. The name of Houck, H-A-U-C-K, has come up in the investigation. Do you know a lady by the name of Sharon Houck?
No, I don't.
It's probably just a coincidence. That's all it is.
I do not know Sharon.
Okay, well, thank you very, very much.
Annette said she doesn't know the Hawks, but we need to talk to Richard's mother, Sharon, to be thorough and sure that there's no connection between her family, Annette Houck, or Matt Greenblatt.
Do you know Annette Houck, H-A-U-C-K?
No.
Okay, good. I didn't know. I just got to ask you. And do you know a fellow by the name of Matthew Greenblatt?
No.
Okay, then that's about all we need, okay?
I think we've reached a dead end making any clear connection between Matt and Richard Engel.
That lead is dead then, right?
I think so, don't
Yeah,
you?
I do. I certainly do.
Okay, so looking at the board. In the beginning of the week, we had all of the issues that we knew go directly to Matt Greenblatt and Richard Engel, and our question was, can we put their two worlds together? We've talked to everybody we can find in Matt's world and asked them, have you ever heard of Richard Engel? And they all to a person said no. I think we beat this thing to death, and there is no way these two guys are in the same universe.
I certainly wouldn't be willing to go forward on Richard Engel, would you?
No.
He delivered pizzas, and he probably went to that complex, smoking a cigarette, set it out, delivered the pizza, meant to grab it on the way back, just forgot it. I don't think he's connected.
You know, he's just a low-lying fruit here. He's not the solution here.
He is not. Richard Engel's out of the picture.
There's no motive for Richard Engel to really even be involved in this or have done this. We can't find any connection. So it seems like Richard Engel's DNA is there innocently.
We're down to one suspect, and that's Matt Greenblatt. We have one last witness, Gwen's friend, Sarah Bergman, who's agreed to meet with us. Hopefully, she's going to have information that can help us.
How did you meet Gwen?
We met at work at the Breakers.
Okay, are you a massage therapist also?
I am a licensed massage therapist also.
Okay.
We were actually in the process of starting a business.
Did you become aware that Gwen was having a problem in her marriage?
Yes. He would show up randomly at places. She was out with somebody having a drink, and I was just a friend. And he showed up, and so she left. She came home, and he was sitting in her apartment with the lights out. I guess he had a key to the apartment.
So he goes where she is, she leaves, and then he beats her home.
Mm-hmm. He was very controlling.
It seems like Matt's control issues were much more serious than we imagined. And Matt secretly waiting to surprise Gwen matches the behavior of our killer.
This is my opinion, that he was losing control over her. As a matter of fact, the night before we were on the phone, we were working on our business, and Matt kept calling through on the phone. She got more upset and more upset every time she clicked over to him. I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, No, I told him I'm done. I'm over. I'm filing for divorce. She was going to go to the attorney.
She told Matt that?
Yeah. She was very upset. She was crying, obviously.
This is brand new. Nobody ever told us that Gwen was planning on leaving Matt before. It makes you wonder if she had finally gotten tired of the years of his abuse and controlling behavior.
She told you definitively that she was going to go to a divorce attorney to get a divorce on February 4th, 2003.
She said, I'm going.
And it's over.
So when you heard she was shot the next day, what'd you think?
I was freaked out.
Freaked out and thought?
The first thing I thought of was Matt. And I said, what has he done to her? Sorry.
That's all right.
Matt allegedly told Gwen that if she ever tried to leave him, he'd kill her. And now we have a witness who Gwen told she was planning on hiring a divorce lawyer the night before she was murdered. That makes you wonder whether Matt decided to finally make good on his threat.
I loved it when she said, just the night before I'm done. I told him I'm done with this.
Yeah.
See, and it's not hearsay. It goes to her state of mind. Her state of mind at that time was, I'm done, which Matt now realizes.
We've talked to all of our witnesses.
Want to go back down the left?
Yeah, let's go back left. Let's go back.
Now it's time to see how Matt can explain everything that we've uncovered.
So I was doing some research, Aaron. Looks like he's got a nice boat, I'll tell you that much.
Most of these bass boats are really nice.
Matt's a pro bass fisherman, and we were able to track him down at a fishing tournament in rural Arkansas.
Matthew?
Yes.
I'm Detective Sam with the West Palm Beach Police Department. I was wondering if I could talk to you about Gwen.
We have a meeting coming up, but
I should take maybe
15, 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Just doing the car, we got reports there and stuff like that.
yeah.
Your relationship with Gwen, how was it with you guys?
Good. I mean, personally, we were still intimate. Well, it was never anything bad. I mean, we never fought. You were saying a couple girls.
From what I can understand from the report.
Yeah, at the time, yeah, when we separated,
Okay. While still seeing Gwen.
But we were probably not going to get a divorce. I mean, if I had to put a percentage on it, I'd say 80% we probably had to work something out and stay together.
Okay.
Matt's contradicting everything we've heard. They had a good relationship. They never fought.
You're selling your house.
Okay.
Okay. And there was a problem with it.
What's wrong with the house?
There was a problem with the house and I guess the deed. Something about you wanted her to sign something.
I didn't need her to sign anything. And I don't even believe the house was in Gwen's name.
But I'm asking you, was there a problem with you and Gwen in regards to trying to straighten that out? Because what I'm getting...
No, money was never a problem. Money is...
Did she ever get the 70, 75?
We never got a divorce, no.
This is the first time Matt's denying any problem with the sale of his house. And of course they didn't get a divorce because she was killed and he got to keep that money. This guy's a great manipulator.
We pulled up all the phone records and computer records since this happened. And I call this the golden hour, right in here. We know this is when Gwen was killed. See that green right in the middle?
Okay, yep.
And guess who doesn't have a reasonable explanation for where they are at that time? Take a guess.
Oh, me?
You.
I was definitely at my apartment sleeping.
This is the first time Matt has ever claimed he was sleeping the afternoon Gwen was murdered. And that's another alibi that nobody can corroborate.
What should happen to the person that killed Gwen?
The person should be prosecuted and tried. You know, they should have a jury.
No eye for an eye?
That's eye for eye. It's let the system take its course.
There's people that look at this case and say the opportunity is there for you to be there, for you to do something to Gwen, because you were angry with her for doing something.
No.
Okay.
Lots of those things are wrong. We never had money problems. And signing the deed thing, I don't even know where that even comes from. A womanizer? Yeah, I was a womanizer. I was a young kid, but I mean, I had nothing to do with this. I appreciate you coming and still trying to find out who did it, you know, but it wasn't me, and I gotta go.
Let him go.
Okay, so looking at the board, you got Gwen Greenblatt, who every single person we talk to describes as basically the sweetest, most wonderful woman there is, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And in the whole wide world, who would want her dead? Matt. With everything that we've learned this week, we have a solid case of circumstantial evidence against Matt Greenblatt for the murder of his wife, Gwen. You have a marriage that's been wrong since the day it happened.
He said if I ever tried to leave him, he would kill me.
A house that he's trying to get rid of, but she doesn't want to because it represents happily ever after between her and Matt.
If she don't sign, the deal ain't going through.
You have a prenup, a $70,000 issue.
She was supposed to get some sort of amount of money. The number is like $75,000. It would stay in my head.
You found these new women who talk about how he was obsessive, he was jealous, but then we find out Sarah Bergman says the night before the murder, Gwen tells her, I'm going to call a divorce attorney. This marriage is over.
I told him I'm done, I'm over, I'm filing for divorce.
You had the new things that he told you yesterday that now all of a sudden he's asleep. Add all these things up, you have a case against Matt Greenblatt. Aaron and Billy, how do you feel about the case?
I think the case deserves to be presented to the grand jury.
I'm with Billy. I think I could present this to the state attorney with everything that we've done.
Y'all ready to go talk to him? You go do it today.
Oh, I do it today.
Fortunately, the state's attorney has agreed to come in for a preliminary meeting.
You know why the dog wasn't barking?
Because the dog
he knows
recognized,
Matt.
yes.
He knows Matt.
So we have motive, we have opportunity. And I think it's great that they're revisiting this because obviously this is something that demands justice. But hopefully we can keep moving forward and the walls will be closing in eventually so we can file charges. You know, if there's any T to be crossed and I to be dotted, we're going to do it.
It's a good sign that State's Attorney David Ehrenberg likes the case and seems confident that it'll move forward.
Thank you so much. It's really good to meet you.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Good to see you again.
Hi, good to see you. How are you?
Okay. How are you?
See you again.
It's time to bring Gwen's brothers up to date with the status of the case. The good news is that the investigation time we spent was very, very productive. We met with the state's attorney, David Ehrenberg, and he told us that he's surprised the case has gone cold for this long. The good news is that he's assigned one of his best prosecutors to work on it, and our hope is it'll move forward.
That's great news. We're super appreciative of everything you guys have done, and hopefully one day soon we'll get justice.
Exactly. Well,
thank you.
It was a pleasure meeting you. We're so happy that we've finally been able to give Gwen's family more of the answers they've been waiting 12 years to hear. And soon we all hope that Gwen will finally get justice.
An all-new Cold Justice returns Friday, July 31st at 8 on TNT.